Hi, Professor Chen. We are Group 5 of the Psychology and Crime class. Today we are going to compare two taxi serial perpetrators, LAU HONWAI and John Robbie. We are LAU HONWAI, Sun JIAXIN, and Ma Qiu-si. And both of them are serial perpetrators, and they have different consequences to the victims. LAU did rape and necrophilia on the victims, and John only raped. And number of victims of LAU were 4, and for John it was guessed over 100. So we want to know what is the reason to drive this kind of result, even though they are both serial perpetrators.
Hi, Professor Chen. My name is Ma Qiu-si, and I'm going to introduce the first part, 林过云. The first case is Raining Night Killer Lin Guoyun. His childhood was full of violence. He was abused by a father with 3 wives. His mother did not protect him against the abuse. His academic performance was poor. All subjects failed the Hong Kong Certificate of Education examination. Worked as an air conditioning repairman, became a taxi driver after obtaining a license, and had a history of sexual harassment. He lost the opportunity to form a family like normal people. He was a tragedy, but also a tragedy of 4 victims: Chen Fenglan, Chen Wanjie, Liang Xiuwan, and Liang Wensheng. 4 victims was killed on 1922, February 5, May 29, June 17, and July 2. He strangled the victims in the late night taxi, targeting women working in nightclubs. Had the body under the sofa in his living room. After his father and brother went out to work, he removed the sex organs from the couples and dismembered the couples using the whole process of photography and video, and finally described it. The cooling off period for the first and second offenses was particularly long, and we suspect Lin was fully prepared after being excited about the murder. His studio is equipped with cameras and video equipment, scalpels and jars filled with chemicals. These items are expensive, so there should be a long preparation time. In the 4th victim, he practiced conversion, but the first 3 did not. So let's become to the analyze its torsion in his usual method, because he can observe the victim's pain and struggle up close, feeling that the victim fully satisfied his desire to maintain every range under his control. This means that the victim was killed under controlled conditions, such as being handcuffed, but killing is definitely not his ultimate goal of Lin Guoyun, as we can see that following up actions has been taken in all cases, including obscenity and retention and sacrifice, disbarment, photography, video, and film development. Lin has abnormal sexual fantasies of assaults. We can see it from the cut organ and then the stored in that suitable jar. He was also excited about the whole naked body. Low social status and constant frustration, distortion of self-esteem, fear of arrest, and especially fear of being rejected by others, thus causing social pressure. An extreme desire for control requires absolute obedience the body. This led him to collect sacrifice at couples' sexual orgies and choose to kill people on rainy days. Because the illusion of being able to communicate with God on rainy days was angry, and non-repair aspects were similar. Murder sometimes feels like punishing a bad woman instead of God.
I am the group member Sun JIAXIN, and I'll introduce and analyze the second case, John Boyce, we applied. Now let's move to the slides.
The case is happened in British. John Worboys was one of the most significant rapists in British history. Between 2002 and 2008, he used the identity of a taxi driver to target over 100 people in London who had been raped and sexually assaulted. According to the complaints of 12 of the victims, he likes to drive a taxi in the middle of London in the midnight and especially targets lonely women who look like professional female. This perpetrator always performed the same trick, claiming that he had won a prize, inviting a woman in the car to have a drink to celebrate. Worboys put drugs in the wine, letting them fall unconscious, and rape or obscenity. He is always keeping the cat with abandoned tools equipped in order to commit crimes conveniently. Because the victim was indecent and masochistic in the case of unconsciousness or totally loss of consciousness, and his criminal behavior was carefully planned, it brings great difficulties to police investigation and evidence collection. Well, when it comes to his growing experience, like most serial perpetrators, he always got a complicated and separated lifetime. Worboys left school at 6 with few qualifications and was employed in jobs including milkman, junior dairy manager, and a security guard. He lived alone in South London before marrying Kat Santos in 1991. Then the couple separated after 4 years. Santos states that he sexually assaulted her daughter and that he confessed to following home and assaulting another woman. From 1987 to 2000, Worboys worked as a stripper. As Paul and Tony, Worboys directed and appeared in an adult film, but eventually he was too old to give up his career at the age of 42. Then 3 years later, he became a registered taxi driver. While his criminal behavior revealed the desire of dominance, his series of behaviors and intended to control the victims in the limited confined space, and the tools are used to control the victims in order to meet their own desires. This control behavior is not only a means of committing crimes, but also the object of exploration and enjoyment by the perpetrators. We can basically conclude his personal characteristics in this way. He is good at planning, manipulating trust, having strong psychological quality. From above, estimated psychological problem we guess. John is paraphilia and drug rape. This manifested in that he always has tools for sexual abuse in the car, makes up senses, and watches the behavior of the victims. Obvious in sex shows that there are a large number of victims in a short time and that there are various ways of the process of the rape. Obsessive compulsive personality disorder. The character displayed in daily life is completely opposite to that in the case of crime. The character shown in a crime is completely different from that of his population.
After knowing the cases and analysis, we will do comparison between them. Several aspects were used for the comparison. First is type of organizing. As we see in both cases, both perpetrators were premeditated offenders. They learn from crime to crime to polish their MO and the rep kits. They also manage the crime scenes such that they were not being discovered easily. In Lam's case, Even his father and brother did not notice that he was killing 4 women. For John's case, victims were unconscious and not able to report the case to police. Thus, we can conclude that both of them were in organized type of offenders. Second point we want to compare is the typology. We assume both of them were in PR, power reassurance type. In this type of offenders, they act because the deviant sexual fantasies and they want to seek for reassurance on their sexual adequacy. Normally, the offenders were isolated from the society, and when they commit sexual crime, they usually gain control over the victim first. Lam killed the victim first and do the sexual thing, and John drugged the victim first and then do the rape. And on the other side, from the exclusion method, both of them were not anger retaliatory and anger excitational type, as their crime and premeditated. And for the power assertive type, normally bring with increasing aggression and kill the victim accidentally. So we can see that they are both in PL type. Third aspect we are going to compare is the predictor. Childhood abuse may be too long to remember or an excuse to reduce penalty. But we see both of them had sexual offending histories. This fact is not make up and that we can trust. Also, they have a creativity on the sexual industry. This could be a strong indicator that how a sexual obsession individual will do this without concerning the money or business, but just for interest. Lam spent a lot of money for his studio, and John directed pornographic film and was an actor in his production also. These two predictors could be for sexual offending, but not explain how they differ and the consequences. The last aspect we want to compare is the psychological problem we guess they had. Lam should have narcissistic personality disorder, NPD. He thought he can communicate to God. Also, he killed for the God. And when police officer told him that his photo will be published to the public, he felt superior. At that time, he admitted the crime. He also had paraphilia in sex organ. I think it is a type of true partialism. Normally, this type of a patient likes special part of the body, but not take it apart. But it seems Lam kills and took out of the sexual organ with his sexual urge. For John, he is obsessed in sex and could have obsessive compulsive personality disorder. His whole life was about sex before convicted. His drive for perfection of his offending. He tried to commit crime with no clue. He will check back the crime scenes if he had doubt. This also correlated with his paraphilia on drug grab. He did it to his client when he was a stripper, and that client has consented with him. So we can see that the differences between both perpetrators were mainly in the type of the paraphilia. So this is the main point we need to investigate in, so that to see whether it is a driver for the different consequences. Okay, they're saying that 3 possible drivers for developing the paraphilia. First is early inappropriate sexual association or experiences. Second, possible inadequate development of consensual adult arousing pattern. And third, possible inadequate development of appropriate social skills. They will let the individual develop inappropriate sexual fantasy, and they know that it is no good and will try to inhibit it. Then the contradict paraphilia form, fantasies and behavior are then developed, and this is the paraphilia. So depends on what type of input in original 3 drivers, what type of paraphilia will result. For example, pornographic material reading about child abuse may drive the individual to have paraphilia on the child if they build the sexual fantasies about it. In our case, Lam has paraphilia in partialism and John has on drug rape. Once the paraphilia is developed, it shows that the individual will have obsession about the act. Some are socially or personally acceptable, for example like SM or transvestic fetishism, but some are not acceptable, like exhibitionism or voyeurism. That means they have to commit crime to obtain sexual pleasure. In our cases, the true partialism from Lam caused him to cut organ from his victims. And the drug rape by John are also unacceptable. He had to make the victim unconscious and rape them. So they also need to continuously to commit crime to get this pleasure. So we can conclude that what type of paraphilia determine what type of sexual perpetrator they are, and they will do or they will behave. And normally they will be stopped after being caught or discovered by police. So in Lam's case, because he killed and then the corpse was discovered by the police earlier, so the number of victims is lower. And in John's case, because the victims were not able to report to the police due to the unconsciousness, that's why we can see the number of victims is much more larger than in the Lam's case. So this is the comparison and our conclusion about both cases. Thanks.